aspirant who is even sitting here is that irrespective of whether you qualify pre or not, like it's in another 2 weeks.
Yes, yes.
Irrespective of that, I would want you to prepare for mains like any prelims qualified candidate would have in the coming 3 months.
Coming 3 months. In mains, try to make the life of the examiner easy.
It will actually give at least I think 10 or 15 marks more overall. So you need to make sure that the examiner sees maximum content in those 10 to 12 seconds. He is not going to take the pain of
find out.
to find out. Maybe you've written great answer, but if it's not visible to the eyes of the examiner, maybe you'll not get the marks. It's like driving the car.
Yes.
You don't sit on the driver's seat one day and you become the perfect driver.
Yes.
It's a skill.
It's a gradual process.
There are levels and layers to answer writing. If you don't start at level 1, you'll never reach level 10.
Yes.
Interview is also not what you prepare in those 3-4 months. Actually, it's your whole life. I think for me, I used to cry almost every 3rd or 4th day.
Yeah.
Because I know people who have worked as hard as me, maybe even harder,
Yeah.
and they have not made it to the rank list.
Yeah.
लोग बोलते हैं कि इसमें selection percentage is like 0 point something
Yeah.
something. I would say मुझे तो बस एक ही seat चाहिए ना.
Unacademy. Let's crack it.
Namaste and welcome to Unacademy IS. From doubts to discipline, from dream to rank. This is a story of clarity, courage and commitment. Joining us today is Ritika Chitlangia, All India rank 55, UPSC CSE 2024. So Ritika, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
How has this feeling been after the result? Has it synced or is it still going on?
Sir, honestly, it's been a while now since the results have come,
Yes.
and initially there was a lot of excitement, relief, gratefulness. Now I think it has come down to that I don't have to give prelims in another 2 weeks.
It's more of a liberating stage.
Liberating stage that you're out of this cycle. You don't
Yes.
have to constantly think about what's next, how to prepare this and that. So very happy to be out of it finally.
Yes. How has the family reacted?
Family is above the moon. They're all very happy, very proud, very excited, and honestly, it's as much their achievement as it is mine.
Yes, yes.
So definitely they
It's
deserve.
a team effort.
It is more than a team effort. It takes a village, honestly.
The moment you saw that name in the list, describe that moment for us. मतलब कैसा था वो?
Yeah.
क्योंकि जब उससे पहले बहुत anxiousness होती है, बहुत uncertainty होती है, क्योंकि वो एग्जाम का नेचर ऐसा है.
Right.
So how was that moment for you?
So almost a week before the anticipated date of the results, I was extremely anxious. I was not able to do anything. I was just lying in bed. And even on the day that it was supposedly about to come. So the first half of the day, like till the time the results hadn't come, I was so nervous that I threw up. It was that difficult for me. But actually it was, I don't know, it's weird that almost 10 minutes before the results were about to come, and even the moment I saw that the PDF has now come, so there was this calmness in me. I don't know how it happened. In fact, before it I was very paranoid, but in that moment I was calm, and in fact I decided that beforehand that I'll just scroll for my name in the first page. If it's not there, then I'll search it.
Control.
And that too, I had asked one of my friends to do it because I didn't think I had it in me to really look for my name. But fortunately, the first name on the second page was mine. So I didn't have to look that far.
Okay. So before UPSC happened, what were your dreams? Or was the only dream that you pursued?
So see, the definition of dream is very vast for me. It definitely was one of my goals. I would say that I always had it in my mind, I think since class 10th, that this is something that I want to try for at least once in my life, at least prepare once for in my life.
Right.
And I'm very happy that that goal has been attained now, but I would still say that it wasn't the only dream that I had ever had. I think that I have multiple dreams, and this was one of it, and I'm happy that it has fulfilled now.
So basically, you want to say that UPSC is not life.
Definitely.
It is much bigger than that. Life is much bigger than that.
Life is just not comparable to an exam any day.
Yes.
So
those people who make it as their life, so I think, and that you also are trying to say that this is just an exam. Consider it as an exam, prepare for it, do it passionately, but ultimately don't make it your life.
Definitely, because I feel like there are people out there who are doing much better job than a civil servant is. So your life's purposes has to be bigger than this exam.
It's just a medium.
It's just a medium, and that too, it might work for some people, might not work for some people. Does not define your merit at the end of the day.
Yes. Okay, Ritika, please tell me a brief journey about your graduation and schooling from where you did, and what was your graduation stream?
So I have lived all my life in Delhi, and I completed my schooling also from Delhi in Birla Vidyaniketan,
Yeah.
Pusht Bihar. And after 12th, I had chosen geography as my major subject, and I completed my graduation from Miranda House.
Okay.
And I passed out in 2022, and
Okay.
I started preparing for this exam full time after that. And in my mind, I had decided that I'll give it around 2 years of full time preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And if it works for me, great. If it doesn't, I was completely ready to quit it after 2 cycles, and I
Yeah.
was looking for masters, maybe abroad or even law for that matter.
Okay. So was UPSC always the plan, or did something happen that nudged you towards this?
So honestly, I think in class 10th, when we start thinking maybe consciously about our career and the
Yes.
path ahead, because we have to decide subjects in 11th and 12th. So one of my geography teachers, she was also my class teacher, she somewhere nudged me towards this possibility that this is an exam that you can try for once. And
Okay.
then she was also the one who convinced my parents for it, that
Okay.
let her try this exam. So I think since class 10 that the seed was always there in my mind, but it wasn't like that I was actively working towards it. I
Okay.
started preparing for it in June 2022 only, although it was in my mind for a period of 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was sure that I was not going to make it my life since I was 16.
Yes.
I wanted to live my school life properly. I wanted to be in my college life properly, because it's important for a whole rounded
Yeah.
development of your life.
Right. Right.
So I started in 2022, and fortunately now I don't have to do anything else.
So basically, you started your full-fledged preparation after your graduation.
Yes.
Okay. And this was your second attempt.
Yes.
Right. What went wrong in the first attempt?
See, I wouldn't say that anything went wrong in the first attempt. It's just that I was not prepared for it.
Yes.
I believe that this exam requires a certain amount of time
Yeah.
to be able to sit for this exam and to give your best shot.
Yes. Yes.
At
yes.
that point, I was just not ready to do that, because I did not have that much of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was in my foundation coaching till like March 2023, and then I just
Okay.
had 2 months to prepare for prelims. And that's like this exam for a reason, and I
Yes.
was just not prepared for it. My static was not well done, my aptitude wasn't that great, my practice was not there, CSAT was difficult. So it wasn't really that anything went wrong, it's just that I was not at that level to be prepared.
So basically, Ritika, what would you say that is the ideal time, at least, that a person must take before giving the first shot to this exam?
See, having said that I wasn't ready, I would still not suggest people to not sit for this exam unless and until they have completed that amount
Because
of
that
time.
stage will never come.
That stage will never come. In
Right.
fact, this preparation never really ends.
Yeah.
It's not that one day you'll finally say that now I'm completely prepared for this exam.
Right. Right.
It's just that a baseline has to be there, that you have
Yes.
to cover your static at least once well, or like once or twice well enough.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I would really suggest people to start taking their attempts, because I feel like a lot of people have this romantic myth in their mind that they would want to do this exam in their first attempt,
Yeah.
and then they keep waiting it out, because
Right.
that perfect attempt will not come to you. You
Yes.
have to take that opportunity.
They will never come a stage when this
Yeah.
exam will be under your control.
Under your control.
That's not possible.
And honestly, when I gave my first prelims in 2023, I actually learned a lot of things.
Yeah.
That experience really
Yes.
changes your preparation. It tells you what is needed, what is not.
Yes. Yes.
Because up until then, you're just looking at it from the window. But once you actually start the race and you sit at the race, then you understand that, okay, this is where I'm at and this is where I have to be.
That's what I also think, that there is always a difference between how you prepare and how you approach an exam in the real
Definitely,
situation.
Like I remember, for example, in my CSAT exam in 2023, firstly, it was a difficult paper that
Very
day.
difficult.
Very difficult
Most
paper.
unorthodox paper.
Most unorthodox paper, and I was from a non-math background. So
Yeah.
anyway, it was a difficult paper for me. Plus, you are giving the exam in the month of May. It's 45 degrees Celsius out
Yes.
there, and even the fan in my center was not working. So that is a complete negative externality which you never account for while you're
Yes, yes,
preparing
yes.
at home.
You will always sit in the
Yeah, you'll
comfort
sit
zone.
on AC, you'll
AC
do
then,
that.
yes.
The thing is that also that you give CSAT after
The GS
GS
paper.
paper, and there's a 3-year gap in between.
yes.
That is a whole another ball game.
Yes, another ball.
So,
Right. That's
yeah.
what I also say to some students, that whenever you practice CSAT, try to practice it in the 2:30 to 4:30 period,
Definitely.
and especially after giving one GS
One
subject,
paper,
the GS
definitely.
paper,
Yeah.
because that will stimulate your mind for the exam situation.
Exam situation, and I would always advise them to switch on their AC. And
Yes.
Yeah.
I also used to do this thing,
Yeah.
that switching off the AC.
AC.
I even used to open my window,
Correct,
so that
correct.
some hot air also comes in the room.
Yeah. So
Because that we will experience in the
exam.
exam.
And it's difficult out there to even give this exam in this condition, and you have to prepare yourself for it.
Right, right. So what was your optional?
Geography.
Geography. Just because it was your graduation subject, or was there some other criteria for choosing this option?
My graduation subject was geography because my optional was supposed to be geography.
Okay, okay.
So before I knew, in fact, anything about this preparation, I think I decided somewhere in my mind that geography is the optional that I'm going to choose.
Yeah.
And I think all my decisions then were made having that in mind.
Revolving around that.
Yeah, but in retrospect, I think that was not the smartest choice. Fortunately, it worked for me, but I think I should have been a bit more practical with respect to my graduation subject choice at least. But yeah, as an optional, I feel like it really worked for me and it helped me get the rank that I did.
What would you suggest that should be the criteria someone who has to choose an optional?
Yeah.
On what basis a person should choose an optional?
See, I think the most important factor is that you need to have some sort of inherent interest in that subject.
Right, right.
Because your optional is something, see, in maybe having an 10-hour study session, if you have it in a day, 4 hours you're giving to different sort of GS subjects, maybe 4 to 5 hours.
Yes.
But 4 to 5 hours every day you're studying one particular subject.
Right.
And you need to really have some sort of interest in it. Otherwise, it's very difficult to keep doing that over a period of maybe a year. Regularly. So I think the first and the foremost is that you need to have some passion or interest towards the subject. That's the most important thing. Secondly, you can look through PYQs. That's again an important factor. See the syllabus, see the PYQs, what kind of topics are reflecting in the PYQs again and again. And I think that just, it becomes sort of a beginner to choose your optional, and then you can look at the type of materials available, coachings available in the market, and then you can
I also think that one of the criteria should also be that how much is the overlap of an optional with a GS subject. Because ultimately we have to
definitely
through all the subjects.
All the subjects.
GS 1, 2, 3, essay and optional.
Correct.
The cumulative score is calculated.
Correct.
So like my option was public administration. So it helped me in GS 2. Your is GS 1.
My
geography.
Actually, geography is a subject that, although the syllabus of the optional is seemingly very vast, but it will help you in all the 5 papers of GS, right from essay to ethics. It's up to you how you're using it.
How you're using it.
Directly, though it applies in GS1 and GS3, even GS2 we study political geography, which is helpful in international relations.
Yes.
But even you can, having a good knowledge of it helps in ethics and essay as well, I would say.
Right. Unacademy अब सिर्फ ऑनलाइन नहीं ऑफलाइन में भी अवेलेबल है। ऑफलाइन सेंटर हमारे दिल्ली के करोल बाग के ओल्ड राजेंद्र नगर एरिया में, जहां पे आपको मिलता है UPSC CSE का इंग्लिश मीडियम बैचेस। इसके साथ साथ हम दिल्ली के ही मुखर्जी नगर एरिया में भी मौजूद हैं, जहां पे आपको हिंदी माध्यम के बैचेस अवेलेबल हैं। और अब हम उत्तर प्रदेश के प्रयागराज में सिविल लाइंस एरिया में भी मौजूद हैं, जहां पे UPSC साथ में UPPSC के हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों माध्यम के बैचेस अवेलेबल हैं। और हमारा नया सेंटर ओपन हुआ है बिहार के पटना में, जहां पे UPSC और BPSC की दोनों की तैयारी एक साथ कराई जाती है। तो अनअकैडमी में आपको मिलता है इंडिया की बेस्ट फैकल्टीज के साथ पढ़ने का मौका। साथ में आपको मिलता है डेडिकेटेड CSAT एंड एस्से राइटिंग क्लासेस, 360 डिग्री करंट अफेयर्स कवरेज विद मंथली मैगजीन, 40+ सेक्शनल एंड फुल लेंथ टेस्ट ऑफ बोथ प्रीलिम्स एज वेल एज मेंस। इसके साथ साथ रेगुलर इंटरेक्शन विद एडुकेटर्स, और मिलता है 1-to-1 मेंटरशिप विद इंटरव्यू अपीयर्ड स्टूडेंट्स। सो देर मत करें, जल्दी ज्वाइन करें Unacademy IS, India's best learning platform. Thank you. Okay, Ritika, so let's come to the first stage, prelims.
Yeah.
It is a very dicey stage, very unpredictable.
Yes.
And some people, मैं हमेशा देखता हूँ कि बहुत से लोग इसमें किसी कारणों की वजह से फंस गए हैं. So this unpredictability, how do you address it? Like you have also faced it once.
Right.
So what was the changes that you made from your first attempt to the second attempt regarding approaching the prelims?
See, regarding prelims, I think, as you said, it is getting more and more unpredictable with each passing year. But what you can control is the static part of it.
Yes.
Definitely, prelims is unpredictable, but I would still say that a person who is well prepared with their static part and a decent amount of current affairs is not going to fail prelims because of its unpredictability.
Yes, right.
Because even if in the most difficult papers, like if you pick maybe 2023 also for that matter, if you have studied your static well, you will get through the cutoff at the end of the day, because the cutoff is the deciding factor,
75.
not the difficulty level of the paper.
Yes.
So
that I also think that it's a relative paper. You have to perform better
better than others.
Yes, better than others, because
Yeah.
if it was a very difficult and unorthodox
For
paper,
everyone it is.
it was the cutoff also 75.
Correct.
You
Definitely.
could have easily cleared it if you have the control over your static subjects.
part of it. So that's what I said, that even though it is getting unpredictable, but then that is also reflected in the cutoff. And if you just have a strong command over your static and you have a decent amount of aptitude to solve MCQ type questions, I think prelims is under your belt.
Okay. Okay, could you please shortly share the book list for the prelims subject wise that you used it for your preparation?
So I think for polity, Lakshmikant is a non-negotiable. I don't think anybody can skip that.
No. Like, it's a Bible.
It's a Bible. You cannot clear this examination without Lakshmikant.
Yes, right.
I think for economy, NCRTs of 11th, 12th were helpful.
Micro and macro. Right.
And apart from that, I used my class notes. And PYQs for all the subjects are very, very important.
Come on to that.
Yeah.
Importance of PYQs.
Definitely. And for geography, I think for even a beginner, 11th and 12th NCRTs are more than sufficient for EGS part.
You don't need to start from 6th.
No, I don't think 6th is necessary. Just 11th and 12th you can do very nicely, and geography is sorted. Then apart from that, I think environment is getting a bit vague every year.
Yeah.
But you can obviously cover the basics, like we have Shankar IS book, so you can use that for the basic part of it. And I think current affairs becomes more important in environment. You can use any current affair compilation. And history, I really obviously I read Spectrum for modern India, but I would still suggest that history is such a vast subject. No, it has ancient, medieval, art and culture, modern. So even though I did prepare history from this site called Lotus Arise, it's a free resource.
Yes.
But honestly, it just gave very.
You can't rely on it.
It's not even about reliability. It's about that the rate of return is very less.
Yes, very less.
Very less. For
that's what I also think, that the more time that you will invest in history, the output will not be
proportionate to that.
Yes, definitely.
Use like 10 different books. Like R.S. Agarwal is a great book again. Bipin Chandra is a great book. But I would still say that it's not an exhaustive set of resource for history, and it's not proportionate to the result that it will give you in the exam.
That's what I also think, that for history, I suggest, if it's not your optional, just read the old NCRT, just read the Spectrum and leave the rest.
Leave it. Like,
don't invest much time.
Like it was my 3rd year of preparation. I was still not confident in history.
Yes.
And I did not pick it up beyond a point. I revised my basics, I gave tests and I revised those solutions, but I was never after it that, okay, where is that one question coming from? And just for that one question, I'm not going to read a new 200-page book for that.
Right.
So you have to understand that what is important and what is avoidable.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I also think. I always say this, that prelims is not qualified by getting a very tough question right.
Yeah.
It is qualified by not going your easy question wrong.
Wrong, definitely.
Because if your core subjects, polity, economy, geography will go wrong, and you will fail.
Even 100%. If you do like 10 books of history, and if your polity economy is not strong, then you'll not clear prelims at the end of the day.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And for science and tech, I think you can use any basic resource for the standard coverage of the syllabus. And for dynamic topics, I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos are available for visualization.
Right.
I believe a lot of science and technology prelims questions can also be done with the basic common understanding of it.
Yes.
Even breaking the words like aerial metagenomics.
Yes.
You can satellite DNA. You can reach close to the correct answer, and it works. It doesn't. It's fine.
Okay, so I'm coming on to this next thing, importance of PYQs.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between reading PYQs and analyzing PYQs.
Yes.
And how to use it in the prelims.
Yeah.
So please reflect upon that.
So I think one of the things missing in my 1st year of preparation, that is 23 attempt, was that I was just doing PYQs. I was not analyzing them.
Reading.
I was just doing PYQs, and then I felt that, okay, I've done it once. Why do I need to do it again? Because I already know the answers now.
Yes.
So I made that mistake also. And again, I did not have the time also to do them again. But what I realized in my 2nd attempt is that PYQ actually tells you the examiner's mindset.
Right.
It tells you what the commission wants from you.
Yes.
Because in 100 questions that the commission gives, hardly 20 or 25 you can directly solve through your knowledge. At the end of the day, it's about the aptitude to solve those questions, to get into the examiner's mindset, to understand why they have written or framed a question in a particular way.
Okay.
That is important to understand. I'll substantiate with an example. For example, like in I think 2020 or 21, there was this question that which of the following is an artificial lake?
Yes, yes.
And they'd given 4 options
Yes.
of the lakes, and in the bracket they'd given the name of the state.
Hmm.
They didn't really have to give the name of the state unless and until they're hinting you in a certain direction.
Right, right.
And if you see, if you analyze the options, out of the 4, 3 are of the Himalayan states, the
Yes.
name of the lakes, and one is in, I think, Tamil Nadu,
Yes.
which was the answer.
Kodaikanal.
Kodaikanal, yeah.
Right.
Because why would Himalayan landscape
Hmm.
have the necessity for an artificial lake?
Yes.
There are
yes.
already so many
Yes,
natural
natural
lakes.
lakes.
But in the plateau region, you can have an artificial lake because
yes,
water
yes.
scarcity is also
So that
there.
is the logic.
That is the
we have to
logic.
apply it.
You have to apply, and that is not learned overnight just by doing them once. It's something, it's a skill that you have to master over a period of time,
Yes.
which requires analysis again and again. And along with solving the PYQs, you can pick any compilation of the solutions of PYQs as well. Go back at least 10 years
Hmm.
and just read all the 4 option solutions, like all the
Okay.
4 options that are given.
Yes.
Read their analysis or explanation. That's easily available in the market.
Mhm.
And if you, at least I did that 3 or 4 times. And firstly, I believe that's a great way of revision of at least your
Yeah.
basic subjects like economy and polity, because more or less all the concepts get revised.
Yes, yes, yes.
Even it helps in concepts like environment and science
Yeah.
and tech also,
Right.
because you learn how to apply that logic,
Mhm.
and then you can read about it as well. So it not only enhances your knowledge base, but also gives a great platform for practicing the logic that you have learned.
Right, right, right. So in prelims, there's also one element of intelligent guessing
Yes.
that we talked, like we would be knowing the exact answers to hardly 30 questions or 35 questions
On a good day.
on a good day.
On a good day.
Otherwise, it would be
Yeah.
25, 30.
Yeah, yeah,
So how is this logic or intelligent guessing applied?
yeah.
What did you do in the exam?
Hmm.
Like, other than analyzing the PYQs, how did you approach a question which you did not know
Hmm.
and how you answered it correctly?
So I'll give you 2 examples here
Right.
in 2024 paper only. So there was this one question, again, the statement 1 and statement 2, and the options were like statement 2 explain statement 1.
Yes,
that
yes,
it
yes.
was that kind of a question. And the
Assertion reasoning.
assertion reasoning. So the first statement was, India does not import any apples from the USA.
Yes, it's a
It's a
extreme statement.
It's an extreme statement.
Right.
How is it possible that India is not importing even 1 apple from the US? An
Yes, yes.
examiner has not gone to every port of India to see even if it's not imported illegally. So such statements have to be wrong.
Have to be wrong.
Have to be wrong. So
And it directly comes to the answer.
because in these type of questions,
Yes.
if just know one of the statements,
Yes,
you can
yes.
reach the answer very easily.
Right, right, right.
Similarly, another question of the same nature was that Venezuela has completely solved its economic crisis, and not even 1 person is migrating from Venezuela.
Completely solved. Not even 1%.
Yeah, and not even 1 person. How do you know?
Yes.
That's such an absurd statement to
That
make.
claim cannot be verified.
Verified. It's an absurd
Not
statement to make. And similarly, in one of the, I don't know which year, 22 or 23, maybe 21 or 22, there was this one question that in Ashokan times, gold and copper were not found anywhere in Rajasthan or Karnataka somewhere. Now, the examiner could not have possibly gone to that
Yes,
time and
yes.
seen all over Rajasthan and Karnataka that not even 1 gold deposit is there.
Yes, yes.
It's an extreme statement to make again.
Right,
It's something that cannot be verified, as
Cannot
you
be
said.
verified.
So this is some aptitude that you need to develop, and
So that is what I also think, that to make a statement wrong, they have to do something unorthodox in it. Either they will omit in it
Yeah,
something
yeah,
out,
yeah.
or they will add something
Very
extraordinary.
extreme to it.
Very extreme to it.
Extreme to
That will only make a right statement wrong.
Incorrect.
Incorrect.
And if you see, again, that's what analysis teaches you, that when the examiner has to make a statement right, the language used is very simple.
Very simple.
Very simple.
It's a flow.
It's a flow. It's
Yes.
a naturally, logically flowing statement.
Yes, yes.
But when they go out of their way to make a statement incorrect, they add some very extreme absurdity
Extreme word.
to it.
Yes, yes.
And maybe people will not realize what I'm talking about, but we actually do them 2-3 times. Now you start
That is
seeing
what
these things.
PYQ analysis will teach you.
Definitely, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So another aspect of prelims, CSAT. How did you do it? You also said that you are from a non-math background.
Yes.
So how did you approach? Because this has becoming something which is killing a lot of dreams every
Right.
year. I find people who are scoring good in GS, but they ultimately fail to clear the CSAT cutoff.
Right.
So how did you approach the CSAT thing?
I think CSAT is just not difficult for non-maths people only now. Even I feel like people
Yes,
from
yes.
engineering background
They
are
are
failing
failing. Yes,
CSAT.
yes, yes.
So I think CSAT, the biggest problem that people do is underestimating it, first of all. You have to stop
You have to just
yeah,
score 66.
yeah, you have to give the respect it deserves.
Right.
And it's not happening if you pick it up 2 weeks before the exam.
It will not
It's a
happen.
process. So what I did was that, firstly, for non-maths, I can speak from a non-maths perspective.
Mhm.
You need to get over the fear of maths, first of all. Because I feel
You
like
don't need to create this phobia.
no, yeah, it's not a phobia.
Right.
And for most of us, it's because maybe we have not found a good teacher or ever, and that is why we have the phobia of this particular subject. But having said that, everyone has some strengths and weaknesses, and the important thing to do in CSAT is to firstly realize them.
Yes.
I knew maths is not maths. Even if I practice a lot of maths, I can still never be very naturally comfortable with it.
Yes, yes.
So in the first 50 minutes of the paper, I always started with reading comprehensions.
RC, okay.
RCs. And I had a fairly decent amount of accuracy in it. I think out of 27 or 30 questions, I used to get 25 correct. So that was done. Then I used to start doing LR questions.
Okay.
And LR is also again very topical in nature.
Yes,
Clocks,
yes.
calendars, seating arrangements, directions, and all of that.
Time distance.
Yeah, time distance. You can practice it, and more or less they'll show up in the exam, and you'll get 100% accuracy in that. After that, I used to pick the simplest maths questions possible, and even to reach there, I had to practice it very well.
Yes.
So every day in my schedule, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., that was reserved for CSAT practice for maths, and I did that for more than I think 10 months. So and I think the important thing is that if I used to sit maybe at 9:55 before starting my CSAT session, that I'll do it tomorrow, I'm getting too tired, then I used to skip it. But I think the best part is just to dive right into it, so that your mind does not give that excuse. Right. Because mind gives excuses for things that we don't want to do.
Right.
So I knew that this is something I'm trying to avoid, and I used to just simply dive into it, so that my mind does not even have that window to give me an excuse to not do it. And I think for doing it, there's this great YouTube playlist by Abhishek sir. He was AIR 45, I think, last year in IFOS.
Okay.
And he has this playlist for simple maths topics and good PYQ analysis. So I think people can refer that. I think it's great for conceptual understanding as well as applying it through previous year questions.
Yes.
So that is something that people can refer for that. And there are a lot of compilations available for basic maths topics like percentages, averages, ratios, time distance. So if you start solving them and you understand the concept and practice it, I think it will not be that big a problem for you.
Yeah.
Like,
so basically, two elements are important that you said. Give it the deserved respect.
Yeah.
And secondly, devise a strategy.
Yeah.
How will you approach it? Like you approached, first you did RC, then LR, and then to the maths question.
And even in maths questions, I feel like some people have a lot of ego with respect to maths questions.
Yes.
I had zero ego. And sometimes even I used to solve it, a lot of questions through options.
Yes.
Because it's quicker to solve some questions from
answer option
rather than going all through the process and all the steps.
Because ultimately you have to get to the answer.
It's 2-hour period and you have to get as many questions right as possible.
Right.
So just be very crafty with CSAT as well. It does not have to always follow a very standard process.
Don't put your ego in between that I will solve this question.
Sometimes you have to change your strategy also on the spot.
Yes.
Depending on the situation and the condition of the paper.
That is what I also think, that don't get stuck to a question.
Yeah.
अगर वो फंस रहा है तो उससे आगे बढ़ो and leave it. Because ultimately you have to score 66.
That is the best part about it.
That should be the objective. Yes.
Yeah. So just have to be very flexible and dynamic with your CSAT strategy, and I think practice. It will at least get you to a point where probably you're not topping CSAT, but you're not failing it.
You don't need to top also.
You don't need to top. I was at that. I think by the end of it, I was scoring in the range of 95 to 100, and I think that's decent enough.
That's a very decent score. Right?
That's a decent score, and that is what you have to target.
Okay. So let's come to the mains part, because that is what gets you selected.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you cover the syllabus topics and subtopics of GS 1, 2, 3, 4 and your optional? Like you made notes, yourself made notes out of those topics, or did you refer to any compilations or to any other topper notes?
So for mains, as you said, that is what gets you selected. Firstly, I think my advice to every aspirant who is even sitting here is that irrespective of whether you qualify pre or not, like it's in another 2 weeks.
Yes.
Irrespective of that, I would want you to prepare for mains like any prelims qualified candidate would have in the coming 3 months. Because I think this exam is very doable if you just prepare for mains once properly.
Yes.
Because the day your prelims is clear, then it will make sure that you are in the final rank list that year.
Right.
So mains is very important. I'll go subject paper wise only.
Yeah.
So for essay, I think essay, I don't have a particular advice to give, because I think it's a very creative, subjective paper. At the end of the day, a lot of it is consolidated even before you enter this UPSC field, because I think essay is dependent somewhere on your inherent writing inherent
skills.
creativity,
Yeah.
especially with the kind of topics that are coming
Yes,
these
yes.
years.
Quotes and philosophy.
Yeah, quotes and philosophies. It's also about your interpreting it, how you're writing it. Sometimes people have great content, but they struggle with writing or expressing it.
Yes, yes.
So that is something that you can work on definitely, but maybe I don't have a particular advice for it.
Right.
It comes naturally.
Naturally.
Yes. So, but obviously there are great example compilations that you can use to at least enhance your content. Because content is king at the end of the day.
Yes.
So,
because ultimately you have to expand that topic.
Yeah,
and
in
connect it
10,
with
12
several
pages.
Examples.
Yeah, so you need to have good examples for it, and you'll gather that through a good knowledge base. So for that, you can use any example compilations, and even PYQ topics are given analysis,
Yes,
good essays. You
yes,
can refer
yes.
to top copies.
Mhm.
They help in understanding what an essay requires, a good essay needs. Then coming on to GS1. So I think GS1, the best way to go about it is covering the basic topics like
Yeah.
geography, because you know it's going to show up, society. And I think now society again is getting very non-traditional, the questions,
yes.
the kind of questions
Yeah.
that are coming. So you need to be also aware of what's happening around you, because society is not something that you read in books.
Right,
It's something
right,
that
right,
you're a
right.
part of and you
Part of
see
it.
every day. So like the work from home question that came,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
2 years back.
Yes.
That is something that you can write from
2022.
observation. 22, yeah.
Yeah.
So that you can do. For history, I think what you study during prelims becomes the content for mains. Because it's not like that you study history for mains separately. Maybe certain
Yeah.
topics of it you
Yeah.
study, but what you study during prelims is the content that you write for mains. And I think what I used to do is that there are these value addition compilations which are available paper-wise.
Yes.
And I never sat down to memorize it, because it's just data and examples. There's no context to it. But what I used to do it, especially in those 3 months between prelims and mains, I used to start my day by around giving 30-40 minutes of it, just running it through my eyes.
Okay.
And what happened over time was that it sort of got internalized in me. You start just naturally using a lot of examples after every point, or you have data to substantiate your point. So that is something I can advise, that you can start looking at the value-added compilations. That becomes very helpful.
I just want to interrupt that importance of newspaper. How did you use the newspaper in the mains?
Okay. So newspaper, I think it was always a non-negotiable for me. I started my day with the newspaper. And I honestly didn't make any notes or anything out of the newspaper ever, like current affairs notes. But I think newspaper helps you give very unique examples sometimes, especially in essay and ethics.
Yes.
Because I used to read Indian Express, and
Yeah.
Indian Express conducts these digital governance awards.
Yes.
And in that, they also credit a lot of public service officers.
Yes.
So you get very unique examples,
Even
and you're not writing repetitive
sometimes
things.
you get a very good anecdote
Anecdote.
or observation which you can use in the intro and the conclusion.
Intro and the conclusions as well. So I think just reading the newspaper, because UPSC as an exam does not check your current affairs. It's more about contemporary affairs. And the newspaper will always make you aware of the contemporary affairs. So I think
and ultimately you have to integrate the dynamic part in the static part.
It's not asked separately, right?
Yeah.
You have to be integrated with it. And even in the question, it will not be asked explicitly.
Yes.
It's implicit always.
Right.
And you can use that for then coming to GS2 again.
GS2.
The value added compilation part remains the same. Case judgments. Articles. I think articles are important to learn. You can use the Bayrak for that. I think Bayrak is also a great way of revising polity very quickly.
Yes.
You can just read the articles and very quickly you start.
And you can make a template also that in the polity questions, I will start with an article number.
With an article or with the case judgment. And for IR questions, you can start with the dynamic example.
Right.
It's always something related to current affairs. For social justice, you can maybe start with some quote of some welfarist leader or something. So all of these are again value additions, compilations which have to be learned and how to write in the exam. Yes. And that comes with practice.
That comes with practice.
Yeah, writing is obviously very, very important.
Yeah, I'm going to come upon that next.
So for that, you can use that. And what I did was that during the 3 months between prelims and mains, I never picked up Lakshmikant again. I did make my short notes out of it because
during the prelim stage only.
Yeah, during the prelim stage only. And then I think because in those 3 months, you don't have the time to read such a bulky book cover to cover. And I had already read it 3 to 4 times before that, and I had made my short notes out of it. And during that time, I used primarily that. And again, what I also used to do is that whenever I used to write a mock test for mains, I used to read their solutions very nicely, like the model solutions that were
Yes.
given to me, because
Okay.
I think that's a great tool for value addition.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it also sort of visualizes how a good answer is
Good
written.
answer is written.
And that is something that you emulate, try to emulate in the exam when you read it over a period of time. So I think that is again a skill that is learned.
अनअकैडमी अब सिर्फ ऑनलाइन नहीं ऑफलाइन में भी अवेलेबल है। ऑफलाइन सेंटर हमारे दिल्ली के करोल बाग के ओल्ड राजेंद्र नगर एरिया में, जहां पे आपको मिलता है यूपीएससी सीएसई का इंग्लिश मीडियम बैचेस। इसके साथ साथ हम दिल्ली के ही मुखर्जी नगर एरिया में भी मौजूद हैं, जहां पे आपको हिंदी माध्यम के बैचेस अवेलेबल हैं। और अब हम उत्तर प्रदेश के प्रयागराज में सिविल लाइंस एरिया में भी मौजूद हैं, जहां पे यूपीएससी साथ साथ में यूपीपीएससी के हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों माध्यम के बैचेस अवेलेबल हैं। और हमारा नया सेंटर ओपन हुआ है बिहार के पटना में, जहां पे यूपीएससी और बीपीएससी की दोनों की तैयारी एक साथ कराई जाती है। तो अनअकैडमी में आपको मिलता है इंडिया की बेस्ट फैकल्टीज के साथ पढ़ने का मौका। साथ में आपको मिलता है डेडिकेटेड सीसैट एंड एस्से राइटिंग क्लासेस, 360 डिग्री करंट अफेयर्स कवरेज विद मंथली मैगजीन, 40+ सेक्शनल एंड फुल लेंथ टेस्ट ऑफ बोथ प्रीलिम्स एज वेल एज मेंस। इसके साथ साथ रेगुलर इंटरेक्शन विद एडुकेटर्स, और मिलता है 1-to-1 मेंटरशिप विद इंटरव्यू अपीयर्ड स्टूडेंट्स। सो देर मत करें, जल्दी ज्वाइन करें Unacademy IS, India's best learning platform. Thank you.
Coming on to GS3, I think GS3 is very dynamic.
Yeah,
it's
is not that scoring also
it's not that
right
scoring.
now.
There are no standard sources, no standard boundaries that you can refer to this book for that book.
Because what I see, that scores are continuously between 80s and 90s.
90s, yeah, and that's a good score between 80 to 90.
That's a very good
That's
score.
a good score.
Yeah.
So for GS3, I will tell you very honestly, for economy, I just read Mains 365. I made my notes out of it, and I did not go to any standard source, because most of the economy questions are current affairs oriented.
Yeah.
And also PYQs are a great help, because I found this compilation for PYQ, again model solutions of PYQs.
Yeah.
And if you see, a lot of the times the language of the question is changed, but the content remains the same.
Content remains the same.
For
Right.
example, it's a food processing industry question. You have a basic content for it.
So basically, themes are the same.
Yeah. And for GS3 especially, I think that's great, because themes are repeated in the paper.
Yes.
The food processing industry repeats almost every year in some form or the other.
Yes.
You can just prepare a good intro, good conclusion for it, good points for it, and you can write it as it is in the exam almost.
Yeah.
Even, for example, like employment, unemployment, all of these themes are repeated every year. Skill building.
Even in internal security,
Naxalism,
cyber security, terrorism, border issues.
Repeated. So what I did was that for especially these smaller subjects like cyber, like internal disaster, even social justice in GS2, even for that matter environment, I just prepared 2 to 3 pages notes on every keyword mentioned in the syllabus.
Yeah.
With value addition. And then I just revised that. And I think that played wonderfully for me, because firstly it's quick, great for revision.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's limited. You don't have to hunt different places.
Yes.
Thirdly, it actually helps you to write that information in the exam, because if you keep running after multiple sources, you'll say that I'll read 2 to 3 books, but you'll not remember anything. What you remember is what you actually have revised 4 to 5 times.
Yes.
So I just made 2 to 3 pages note on everything. As you said, for internal security, keywords are clearly mentioned in the syllabus, and I just prepared my notes along with examples, and I revised that multiple times, and I wrote.
So resource restriction is also very important.
Resource restriction is extremely important, especially during mains preparation.
Yes.
Because it can go very wide otherwise, and
until you will not do that, you won't be able to revise.
You'll not be able
if you will not revise, it will not consolidate.
It will not consolidate, and you'll not be able to write it at the end of the day.
Yes.
What you're getting marks is for the answer that you've written in maybe 7 minutes for a 10 marker and 11 minutes for a 15 marker.
Yeah.
So if to be prepared, you have to know exactly what you're going to write in those 7 minutes.
Yes.
You will not get the time to
and you need to have that template in the mind.
And you need to have the fodder which you're quickly able to replicate whatever kind of question comes.
Yeah.
You sort of have to become like a generative AI at that point of time.
Right.
Whatever large language
whatever is
things
just
try to generate.
The question will be fed into you, and the answer should come out.
Because you'll not get the time to think at that when you're writing the exam.
If you will think, then your question will get compromised.
And you'll not be able to maybe complete the paper or things like that will happen. So again, not to get intimidated, all of this does come naturally with a decent amount of practice. So GS3, I did that. GS4 for ethics, I think for ethics, the main important key is time management. You need to learn.
It's a lengthy paper.
Right. It's not just writing, it's also a lot of reading and processing, because you're reading case studies which are running into more than 1200 words these days. So it's not just reading, but also analyzing it and then writing it. So for GS4, I think obviously content is important, and for that you have multiple strategies,
sources.
and multiple
Yeah.
sources. You can do whatever you like, but at the end of the day, you need to devise tricks like how will you quickly write an answer.
Yeah.
And also in GS4, you need to increase the visibility of your answer, because even the paper is very long, and the
Yeah.
examiner does get tired of reading the same things again and again.
Right.
So what I used to do, especially in case studies, was that I used to make tables. Like for questions like compare the options or give the pros and cons of options. So I used to make 3
Merits,
columns.
demerits.
I just write the option and demerits, merits. And इसमें क्या होता है? Two things happen. That firstly, time कम लगता है because you're not writing full sentences.
Yes.
Secondly, even for the examiner, it's easy to understand what you've written.
थोड़ी विजिबिलिटी बढ़ाता है,
बढ़ जाती है because keywords ही लिखते हो फिर आप उस कॉलम के अंदर में सिर्फ, तो आपको टाइम भी कम लगता है and visibility improve होती है.
Yes.
Similarly, I used to make graphs that I used to make levels depending on the preference of my options. That one of the most preferred options I used to write at the top, then second and third.
Yeah.
So the examiner automatically knows what I'm leaning towards. He doesn't have to fish out my answer from whatever the sentences that I've written. And I think
that's what I also say, that in mains, try to make the life of the examiner easy.
It will actually give at least, I think, 10 or 15 marks more overall.
Yes.
If you try to make the examiner's life easy. It because I got to know from somewhere that I'm not sure if it's true or not, but an examiner hardly spends maybe 10 to 12 seconds per answer.
I've also heard about that.
Yeah. So you need to make sure that the examiner sees maximum content in those 10 to 12 seconds. He is not going to take the pain of
to find out.
Maybe you've written great answer, but if it's not visible to the eyes of the examiner, maybe you'll not get the marks. So you have to be prepared for that.
Right.
And I think having a decent handwriting always helps in mains. It's the hard truth.
Because that's a human nature.
It's a human nature.
जो पढ़ने में अच्छा लग रहा होगा वो rewarding होगा. Yes.
So I think having a decent handwriting is, I'm not saying that you have to become a calligrapher.
Yeah.
A decent and legible, at least it has to be.
Yes.
It should make this, you don't have to squint the eyes of the examiners to read what you've written.
Right.
So that is important. And I think, then there's optional, it's different strategy for every optional.
ठीक है, तो आंसर राइटिंग पे हम आते हैं कि आंसर राइटिंग जो सबसे बड़ा चैलेंजेस मैं देखता हूँ स्टूडेंट्स में, एस्पिरेंट्स में, कि वो कहते हैं कि सर हम स्टार्ट ही नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. When to start? What is the ideal time to start? Should I first prepare the content or cover a subject to a certain extent and then start writing answers? Or you should start writing from very early on? So please reflect upon that.
It's a common problem. I think everybody struggles with it. But I think the best time to start answer writing is, for example, if you have completed polity.
Yeah.
Completed in what sense? That maybe you have made your class notes out of it, and maybe you've read Lakshmikant once or twice. Then you can pick up PYQs. Don't go after mock tests initially. You can pick up PYQs and start doing them topically, like thematic wise.
Like if you have covered preamble, find out a question of preamble from the PYQ.
Yeah. And write that. And I think the most important thing to know is that initially when you start writing, you'll give very bad answers.
Yes.
It's completely normal.
मैं भी वही कहता हूँ learners से कि break that inertia.
Yeah, it's most important thing to do, because it's like driving a car. You don't sit on the driver's seat one day and you become the perfect driver.
Yes.
It's a skill.
It's a gradual process.
And there are levels and layers to answer writing. If you don't start at level 1, you'll never reach level 10.
Yes.
So the most important thing is that I think once you...
और यही सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है कि लोगों को ये लगता है कि from day 1 I should write perfect and timed answers. वो possible ही नहीं है.
No, you have to pick priorities while writing answers. That's why I said it's a layered process. Maybe in layer 1 you just have to focus on, even if you're able to figure out the static content for what you have to write an answer for, not maybe the value addition part of it. Just if you even know what the static terms have to be used in a particular answer, that एक preamble का अगर आप answer लिख रहे हो, are you able to give the keywords like maybe equality, status, opportunity, liberty, fraternity? इतना भी आपको याद नहीं है. Right. ठीक है. If you remember the date that is mentioned in the preamble, all of these things, that's level 1. Maybe if once you've perfected, maybe slightly done that, then you can come on to having maybe 1 or 2 more analytical points to your answer.
Yes.
Start maybe writing things analytically, giving, and I think
connecting those topics with the current context.
Connecting, giving dynamic examples to the static things that you've written. And I think a great way to curate answers is that you can go subject wise. Like, for example, if I'm writing an economy answer, obviously I'll give the basics for the questions that is asking the demand. But if I have to generate points, I'll start thinking, okay, what is the impact on society, impact on geography, impact on IR, impact on, I'm just going syllabus wise. That gives you got a lot of dimensions to cover.
Yes.
Because I feel like in answer writing, a lot of times people struggle with how to give points.
Yes, yes.
I think the great way to give points is that most of the topics are multidisciplinary in nature, if you see.
Yes, yes.
I think even the examiner appreciates when you connect it with different papers.
Yeah.
So I think the best way to generate new points is go syllabus wise. If I can give a point from society angle, from economy angle, from geography angle,
From
history
ethical angle.
from polity angle, maybe some case judgment that is there, maybe ethical aspect that you can add to your answer. So I think that gives a well-rounded answer at the end of the day.
And that will not stop you from generating more points.
Yeah,
you will have a template that I will expand my answer.
That's how you become a generative AI.
Yeah.
Different dimensions to think upon, and you can easily connect them with the topic that is being asked. And other than that, I think in certain papers, peculiarities are there. For example, in geography, maps are important.
Yes.
You have to give certain maps. And again, maps are not supposed to be completely accurate.
Yeah.
Map is nothing but a visualization of your knowledge. Even if it's fairly okay.
Yeah.
And if you're able to produce at least a relevant map to the question, then I think that's good enough.
That's a very key word. Don't draw irrelevant maps.
People draw irrelevant maps thinking that I just have to give a map for the sake of it.
उसमें number नहीं मिलते हैं. And that is even more penalized.
That's what I'm saying. It gives a negative impression because it shows that you didn't really know the content and just to fill the space you've given.
You're trying to bluff the examiner.
They're not easily bluffed that ways. So,
like, मैं आपको example के थ्रू बताता हूँ. I was evaluating an answer of Vijayanagar Empire, and the student has drawn the India map and he has reflected the Hampi on it. So I said, what's the use of this?
What's the use of it?
Why are you showing a Hampi on a half page in the map?
Correct, half page.
कोई relevance नहीं है उसका. उसके लिए कोई extra marks नहीं मिलेंगे.
In fact, कभी उनको negative impression भी जा सकता है that maybe you didn't know enough points and that is why you drew a map.
Yes.
तो I think that is
उन्हें ये फील आएगा कि सिर्फ पेज को कवर करने के लिए you draw it.
Space cover करने के लिए आपने वो cover किया. आपको पता भी नहीं है कि वो मैप यहाँ पे क्यों जरूरी है या नहीं. तो वो चीज important है that you have to be mindful about those things. And I think at the end of the day there are certain basics that data is good for your answer. If you can give a data, schemes are important in GS2. I think people should give schemes. Even in GS3, ethics में examples are important, and not just.
And in GS3 also, I think budget and economic survey. They are very important.
Budget and economic
you
survey.
You get observations, government schemes that you can use.
But having said that, I don't want people to go on reading an economic survey.
Go for the summary.
Summaries are easily available.
Yes.
Now there are so many resources also. So you have to be very mindful of what you are actually spending your time and energy on.
No, of course, you can't read an economic survey of 1,000 pages.
1,000 pages and then to make notes out of it. It's not that.
Not required.
Hard work and smart work. That is what you have to figure out.
So how much test did you wrote between pre and mains?
Between pre and mains, I think I used to cover a topic. Then I used to give their sectional tests, and then finally when I covered a paper, I used to give full length tests of it. So I think overall, I gave maybe around 20 to 25 tests.
20 to 25 tests.
And then maybe 2 simulators I gave. Yeah, towards the end.
Okay. Next, coming to the interview part. How much importance is the art of filling the DAF? Because that is what steers your interview.
Correct.
So if you don't fill it smartly, then it will be steered out of the way.
Or something, maybe it opens some minds for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how did you do it?
I think filling your DAF is something that's a very smart strategy you have to apply. And you have to almost make sure that 1 or 2 questions come from the DAF, and if those questions arise, you are in control of them.
You are in control.
You then drive the interview, not the other way around.
Yes.
So, for example, in my DAF, in my hobbies section, I mentioned 3 hobbies, and they were the most unique hobbies, I'll tell you, because one is paint by numbers.
Okay.
Second is Pilates.
Okay.
And third is a software called QGIS on which you can make maps.
Okay.
I knew that I've given certain eye-catching hobbies that the examiner will ask me questions from me.
And you were fully prepared on them.
I had almost running more than, I think, 70 or 80 pages notes just on my DAF.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if this word is in my DAF, and I used to brainstorm every day of every of those 4-5 week periods which I got between my interview was very early on. It was in January.
Okay.
So I did not have a lot of
What
time.
was your score?
188.
188. That's a very good score.
Yeah. So I was just focusing on firstly filling my DAF, and then secondly preparing my DAF really well.
Yeah.
Because you know that the questions will come from your DAF,
Yes.
and I think that's what happened. Current
And
affairs,
that will also send a negative image if you are not able to defend what you have
what you've
written.
written. Yeah, definitely. Because in prelims and mains, they give you the syllabus.
They give you the question.
They give you the question,
Yeah.
but in interview, you give them the questions to
Right,
ask
right,
from.
right.
So you have to be very mindful of that. And I was just very well prepared with different layers that my hobbies could go into, or maybe my extracurriculars could go into. And I was like, I had good enough practice as well as materials to defend my answers with.
Yeah.
But obviously, having said that, interview is a very subjective thing.
Subjective
Sometimes your interview can be based completely on one aspect of your DAF.
Yes, yes.
I think in my case, it was very well distributed. I had questions from my hobbies, from my education, from my college, from my optional, from where I was from. And I think it was very well balanced in that
Any
way.
memorable moment from the interview that you still remember?
I think the whole interview was pretty memorable for that matter. But
Okay.
I did feel one thing is that I had almost given 14 mocks before my main interview.
Okay.
I had given a lot of mocks.
Yeah.
And in most of those mocks, I was put through very intense rounds of questioning, like very grilling, counter questions, rapid fire sort
That
of.
is not what happens there.
See, it could also happen that
could
way
happen,
also. It
yeah.
could happen. But in my case, what happened was that I was just so prepared for the worst that
Yeah.
in reality, my interview was much more pleasant,
Yeah.
much
It was
more
much more
light,
smooth.
very conversational.
Yeah.
And in fact, even I think in interview stage also, there are a lot of narratives that run around. For example, my board was Raj Shukla sir's board.
Raj Shukla sir's board.
And it said that he's a tough person, or
Yeah.
he's an army person, so he'll ask you questions only from the army
Defense
field,
and
defense
IR.
and this. And मेरे case में तो ये था that 14th my interview was there and 15 January Army Day is celebrated.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I was like even more sure that something is going to ask me from defense, and I don't know anything. I don't know much about defense sector, to be very honest.
Yeah.
But in reality, he never asked me anything from
Mhm.
defense. In fact, he was smiling the whole time. It didn't feel what his
So
image.
basically, don't go with a preconceived notion.
No, zero preconceived notions. Don't go after the marks narratives also, that this board gives marks,
Yes,
this
yes,
board
yes.
doesn't give marks. I've seen people getting good marks from apparently a very low scoring board also.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it depends on you at the end of the day. And I think just interview is also not what you prepare in those 3-4 months. Actually, it's your whole life.
Yeah.
So there's not much to say.
It's a conversation about your life
It's
only.
a conversation about your life, and I think there are certain things by the time you're 23, if a very young age you reach the interview stage, by the time
Mhm.
people reach, it's usually 24, 25, 26.
Yes, yes.
So by the time your personality is pretty much done, there's not much that you can change in it. Obviously, you can prepare for it, like the questions, but I don't have a very standard advice to give for an interview stage, because I think it's very subjective and it depends a lot on your context, socioeconomic background and your educational background. So, but what we can certainly say
Control
is
the
that
controllable.
control the controllables and be honest about it.
Be honest.
Be honest about who you are. Don't try to create a picture of someone you think you can fool them, but you
Yeah.
really
Don't
can't.
fake around.
Don't fake
Build
it up.
a neutral and balanced perspective.
Yeah, and if you don't know about something, just be very honest with
Yes.
them. They're not looking for you to have a perfect knowledge. They've already tested that in prelims
Yes,
and means,
yes,
and that
yes,
is why you're
right.
sitting there.
Don't give a negative answer.
Don't try
Just say
to
that, sorry sir, don't have any opinion on it.
Yeah, and
I'm unaware of it.
I've seen people creating a fake personality for the
Yeah.
interview. Do you think that you can really fool them? No, you can't. So
That's penalized.
That's penalized, and that's very badly penalized for that matter. So just be who you are. And obviously, you can hone certain aspects of it, but you can't completely change yourself
Yes,
overnight.
yes, yes. अनअकैडमी अब सिर्फ ऑनलाइन नहीं ऑफलाइन में भी अवेलेबल है। ऑफलाइन सेंटर हमारे दिल्ली के करोल बाग के ओल्ड राजेंद्र नगर एरिया में, जहां पे आपको मिलता है यूपीएससी सीएसई का इंग्लिश मीडियम बैचेस। इसके साथ साथ हम दिल्ली के ही मुखर्जी नगर एरिया में भी मौजूद हैं, जहां पे आपको हिंदी माध्यम के बैचेस अवेलेबल हैं। और अब हम उत्तर प्रदेश के प्रयागराज में सिविल लाइंस एरिया में भी मौजूद हैं, जहां पे यूपीएससी साथ साथ में यूपीपीएससी के हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों माध्यम के बैचेस अवेलेबल हैं। और हमारा नया सेंटर ओपन हुआ है बिहार के पटना में, जहां पे यूपीएससी और बीपीएससी की दोनों की तैयारी एक साथ कराई जाती है। तो अनअकैडमी में आपको मिलता है इंडिया की बेस्ट फैकल्टीज के साथ पढ़ने का मौका। साथ में आपको मिलता है डेडिकेटेड सीसैट एंड एस्से राइटिंग क्लासेस, 360 डिग्री करंट अफेयर्स कवरेज विद मंथली मैगजीन, 40+ सेक्शनल एंड फुल लेंथ टेस्ट ऑफ बोथ प्रीलिम्स एज वेल एज मेंस। इसके साथ साथ रेगुलर इंटरेक्शन विद एडुकेटर्स, और मिलता है 1-to-1 mentorship with interview appeared students. So देर मत करें, जल्दी ज्वाइन करें Unacademy IS, India's best learning platform. Thank you. So what was your first reaction when you stepped out of the room, interview hall? कैसा लगा कि मैं how did I perform?
That's when I said that when I stepped out of it, you have a immediate retrospect of the time that you spent, because when you're sitting there,
शुरू होता है उससे पहले बहुत एंजाइटी होती है
हाँ,
जब हम हॉल के बाहर होते हैं.
hall and you're just waiting for that bell. When
Yes,
you
yes,
go in.
yes.
That is
When the peon comes,
then
you
have to go in.
Yeah.
And even when you're sitting there and you're answering one by one, you don't realize how much time is passing by. You're
Yes.
just so engrossed in that moment. But when I stepped out of the interview room, I just felt a sense of lightness. Like lightness in the sense, first of all, relief that okay, it went well. I didn't know that it went well. I just thought that I have not made any blunder at least.
Yeah.
Because again, interview can't say how it actually
Yes.
went.
That is the most important word. Don't commit a blunder.
You cannot just openly commit a blunder that अब तो पता है कि इसके बाद तो गया.
वो फिर रिजेक्शन आता है.
हाँ, वो फिर नहीं.
जो मार्क्स 110, 20
हाँ.
मिलते हैं, that's a rejection.
Rejection. That's equivalent to failing interview.
Yes.
But I think I just felt lightness because it wasn't as grilling as my mocks were. So it was more conversational and pleasant, and that is what I felt in the room also during the entire time of my interview. And I could see, you sometimes you can judge people's faces. So I sensed the sort of affirmative feeling on the panel and the chairman's face also. And I was not making any presumptions about it, but it wasn't some very obvious blunder that I had committed in the interview.
Yeah. Okay. So let's delve upon the psychological aspect of this exam, because I think there's a academic aspect. There's also a psychological aspect. The burnout, the stress, the low motivation. How did you address it? Like, what did you do for addressing those things?
I think just embrace it. It's a part of this process. सबको ही होता है, I'm sure. जितने लोग यहाँ पे आते हैं, it's not like that every
वहाँ पे
day.
ही हमारे family, friends का role आता है.
Yeah, definitely. And I was preparing from home, so I don't think I could have come here and prepared in my context. So I think for me, I used to cry almost every third or fourth day.
Yeah.
Because that was my way of channeling my emotions.
Yeah.
I used to get stressed.
That's also venting out.
Yeah, venting out. Overwhelmed, frustrated, stressed, low, burnout. I used to cry.
और वो होगा, natural है वो.
सबके लिए होगा.
सबके लिए होगा.
होता है, वो चीज कोई बड़ी बात तो नहीं है मेरे को लगता है. Important thing is that बहुत frequently नहीं होना चाहिए.
Yes.
And it isn't that कि वो होने से आपका एक हफ्ता ही खराब
हो जाएगा. Right.
वो फिर कुछ fundamental problem है. Then it's more of like maybe a fundamental thing that you have not addressed within yourself. So as long as that is not happening, here and there frequent burnouts and phases, I think even this preparation comes and goes in phases. Sometimes you're in a good phase, sometimes you're not in a good phase, so it's fine.
Yeah. How do you tackle the distractions like social media, YouTube, or too much involvement with the friends, groups? उसे कैसे tackle किया था?
I think social media or whatever external distractions that you just mentioned, I think all of these are a manifestation of an internal noise.
Yes.
As long as internally there's some problem, all of this your internal noise will manifest in some sort of external noise, like maybe hanging too much with your friends or social media or YouTube or whatever. So first of all, internally you should be noise free. Yeah. And I don't mean noise free so that you will never have doubts. That's not what I mean.
That will happen.
That will happen.
Yeah.
Because it's a process like that, and internally, as long as internally you're sure why you are here and what you want to achieve from this examination, it's not always selection. Like I never studied with the sole goal of selection. It was always that I'm enjoying the process and learning something new and becoming a better individual, and that is also good enough for me. Even at the end of the day, even if I don't come out of the cycle with the rank. Yeah. And I think automatically then all of these external noises cut down. When you know कि अब हो गया 10-15 मिनट सोशल मीडिया हो गया, बंद कर दो, पढ़ाई कर लो. अब एक बार दोस्तों, I generally feel that firstly I'm an introvert, so I might have a biased opinion here, but I would suggest that create boundaries around you when you are in this examination cycle. Because what happens is that when you go out with friends too frequently, or when you're talking to a lot of people, meeting a lot of people, I think it's taxing. It might be good for some people. I think it's taxing because there's always a resistance that you have to overcome after meeting someone, and if that's happening too
There is a cost to
frequently,
everything.
cost to everything.
Yeah.
And whenever I used to go out maybe for a party or maybe hanging out with my friends, I felt that एक कुछ डिसरप्शन आ गया मेरे मोमेंटम में, और उसको फिर रीगेन करने के लिए मुझे टाइम लग जाता था. तो आई वुड रादर कि मैं नहीं जाऊं, सो दैट माय cycle is not disrupted.
Yeah.
Because if it's getting disrupted too frequently, then it's difficult for you to overcome it again and again.
करता हूं कि या तो कंट्रोल करना सीख लो, और अगर कंट्रोल नहीं हो रहा है तो एलिमिनेट कर दो, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली तुम अपना टाइम वेस्ट नहीं कर सकते. वो बाउंड्री के अंदर ही तुम्हें रहना है, जो इस एग्जाम की प्रिपरेशन के दौरान आपको बनानी पड़ेगी.
मतलब मैं बहुत सिंपल टर्म्स में समझाऊं, सपोज मेरे को शाम को 7 बजे अपने फ्रेंड से मिलना है, और देखो वंस इन अ व्हाइल एवरीथिंग इज ओके. मैं ये फ्रीक्वेंटली की बात कर रही हूं.
हां, बिल्कुल आइसोलेट मत करो.
बिल्कुल, हाँ, वो भी सही नहीं है, वो मेंटली डिप्रेसिंग हो जाता है. And but my point is that, for example, if I have to meet my friend at 7 p.m., it's not just that 7 to 8 that I'm meeting that friend. It's maybe I'm preparing for that meeting from 6 p.m. onwards.
Yeah.
And if I'm coming back at 8 also, I'll take at least 1.5 hours to get back to my study table. So overall, if you see 3-4 hours of my day is getting wasted. If that is happening too frequently, then that's a problem.
Yes. Very true.
So it's not just about maybe 7 to 8. It's 6 to 10 almost.
6 to 10.
Yeah.
Because 1 घंटे पहले आप उसके बारे में सोच रहे थे, और जब वापस आए हो तो 1 घंटे तक वो बातें दिमाग में चल रही हैं.
Yeah. And you never know what triggers you.
Yeah.
Sometimes even unintentionally there are a lot of triggers.
Yes.
And जितना आप अपने आप को उन चीजों से अलग रखोगे, उतना वो triggers को आप eliminate करते चलोगे. Maybe even the other person is not doing it intentionally, but just meeting my friend who is probably earning 50 lakhs, who's a very well settled job, can be a trigger for me.
Yes, of course.
Even though he or she can be my best friend, but I just want to eliminate that trigger, because I know that is something which will bother me and that will waste my time.
Yeah. Okay, so one question is that if you have to bust one myth about UPSC preparation, what would it be? जो बहुत ज्यादा प्रोपोगेटेड है, एक ऐसी मिथ बनी हुई है लोगों के अंदर.
That this exam is tough.
Yeah.
Honestly, this exam
is not tough.
I think there's a misconception about the toughness of this exam, because people think that maybe the syllabus is too tough.
Yeah.
But I think what is tough is consistency, discipline. If you see, the syllabus is not tough. I feel
it's
like
the same thing that we used to read in the school.
Also, I think there are much tougher exams syllabus wise in India.
Yes, there are.
ठीक है, गेट वेट इससे ज्यादा मुश्किल है सिलेबस वाइज. IIT JEE मतलब ये सब ज्यादा मुश्किल है सिलेबस वाइज. इस एग्जाम में डिफिकल्ट ना सिलेबस है ना उसकी वास्टनेस है. प्रॉब्लम ये है that people do not have the patience to sit in this exam. They want immediate results, immediate gratification, and that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing is that there's also a huge luck factor in this exam.
Yes. It's a combination of everything. Discipline, consistency, hard work, and your luck factor.
Luck factor.
Then only you will qualify finally.
Like to get your name with a good rank and everything.
Yes.
So I think just having that awareness that you can do everything right from your side and still something might not work for you does not mean that you are not meritorious. It's also a big luck factor, and also the nature of this exam is as such that the people celebrating will always be infinitesimally small than the people who are not celebrating.
Yeah, always.
So that is something that you have to be aware of, but that should not be a discouraging factor as well.
मैं भी इस चीज को बोलता हूँ कि जो select भी हो गए हैं, if you talk to them personally, they will always say that we are lucky to be on this side of line.
Because I know people who have worked as hard as me, maybe even harder, and they have not made it to the rank list.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the problem was theirs. It's the nature of this exam and the luck as well. So you have to be aware of all of this, but again, this should not be seen as a discouraging factor also. Because, I think it's always helpful to shift your perspective. Like, लोग बोलते हैं कि इसने selection percentage is like 0 point something. I would say मुझे तो बस एक ही सीट चाहिए ना. एक सीट तो मिल जाएगी 1000 में से.
पर्सपेक्टिव है देखने का.
स्टैटिस्टिक्स सेम है.
Yes.
बट मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव है कि मुझे तो 1000 में से एक चाहिए. तो वो तो मिल सकती है.
Right.
So that's your perspective. You have to sometimes shift. You have to zoom in and out depending on what works for you.
If you have made this decision to appear for this exam, then you cannot be misguided by these things.
Yeah.
That ये तो बहुत tough है और इसमें तो 0.01% है. Always remember why you started.
Why you started, and I think in this exam, I would say sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
As much as you're ignorant about the statistics and data and narratives in this Bada Bazaar road,
Yes,
the better off you are.
Yes, true.
So just don't run after myths कि ये optional scoring है, ये optional अब scoring नहीं है, this that, because
ऑप्शनल चूज करने में मैं सबसे यही बोलता हूँ, मैं कहता हूँ कि अगर तुम्हारे अंदर वो कॉन्फिडेंस है ना कि आई कैन कमांड दिस सब्जेक्ट, आई कैन कवर दिस सिलेबस एंड आई कैन आंसर दीस क्वेश्चंस परफेक्टली, देन यू विल स्कोर.
You will score.
डोंट वरी कि इसमें नंबर नहीं मिल रहे हैं, ये टारगेटेड है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता
है. Very funny thing. अब लोग ज्योग्राफी के लिए ये बोलते हैं that it's a very low scoring optional, बहुत सिलेबस
हाँ बोल रहे हैं.
3 हफ्ते में जितना मैंने ये सुना है ना, उतना मैंने अपने 3 साल के प्रिपरेशन में नहीं सुना था. आई थिंक उस केस में इग्नोरेंस वाज ब्लिस, बिकॉज़ अगर मुझे पता होते नैरेटिव्स के बारे में,
कहीं ना कहीं डाउट
हो जाती,
डाउट ट्रैपिंग हुआ होता.
इनफैक्ट मैं अगर पढ़ भी रही होती तो मैं वो इनहिबिशन के साथ पढ़ रही होती कि पता नहीं इफ इट विल वर्क और नॉट. आई नेवर स्टडीड विद दोस इनहिबिशंस. आई नेवर हैड अ डाउट कि मेरा ऑप्शनल क्या होने वाला है. I love the subject, I love reading about it, and your love will get good marks also in that optional.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the last round of our conversation. Some quick random questions because this exam is about randomness. So your favorite GS subject?
Favorite GS subject? Ethics.
Ethics.
I like studying ethics.
One book you can take it to a deserted island, then what it would be?
Geography NCERT.
Geography NCERT.
I can read it multiple times.
Okay. Coffee or chai?
Coffee.
Coffee. Early bird or night owl?
Both, actually. Both. Depends on my mood, honestly.
One final advice for the people who are going to appear for the 2025 prelims on 25th of May that you would like to give in this camera.
I think now you should get relaxed. All the studying part of it is done. You've prepared well enough for it, maybe for months now, years now. I think what's important in these 2 weeks is, firstly, you have to be calm. Trust yourself, trust the process, because I know that when the paper comes on 25th of May, it's not going to be an easy paper. But you have to remind yourself that it's not easy for anyone sitting around you. And if you have studied well, if you have done your statics, if you have revised PYQs, if you have done your current affairs well, trust that. Don't panic in the exam. You have been through it multiple times. Just believe your preparation and be confident about it, and try to solve as much as you can instead of thinking that, oh, the paper is too tough, oh, the paper is too easy. Don't judge the paper when you are writing the exam. Just do it. In fact, don't even look at the answers when you walk out of GS1 paper, because there's a failure bias. We usually Google questions in which we are doubtful, and if they get wrong, we believe that the entire paper has tanked.
It gets compromised CSAT paper.
Gone for, and I would really suggest that worry about the paper after 4:30 PM on 25th of May, not before that. And just keep your physical health also in check, because it's quite hot outside, and simulate the exam-like conditions as closely as possible now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ritika. I hope and I believe that we will continue to hear about you in the services also. All the best for your new journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Unacademy. Let's crack it.